Your current score is 20.7. For your X Factor scores, Karen has awarded you 17, Jamie has awarded you 16, and Alison has awarded you 17, giving you an X Factor score of 16.7. Which takes your total score to 37.4.
Nice score, good on them.
Nicole and Richard, couple 371 from New Zealand. You're currently in third position. Your current score is 19.8. For your X Factor scores, Karen has awarded you 15, Jamie 14, and Alison 16, giving you an X Factor score of 15. Which takes your total score to 34.8.
They'd have to be happy with that.
Athena and Lawrence, couple 383 from New South Wales. You're currently in first position. Your current score is 21.7. For your X Factor scores, Karen has awarded you 17, Jamie has awarded you 18, and Alison has awarded you 18. Giving you an X Factor score of 17.7. Which takes your total score to 39.4. So, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of our conflict tonight, in first place, Athena and Lawrence, couple 383 from New South Wales.
Athena and Lawrence obliterate any doubt with a convincing win over Luba and Umish in second and Nicole and Richard in third.
Congratulations on your win tonight. Was there a moment that you thought, yes, we have it in the bag?
No, not really.
No?
No? It was a challenge the whole way through.
Right.
Yeah.
The audience, I think, was pretty stunned by your solo performance. Did you enjoy that? How did you feel that went for you?
How did you feel? I thought it went alright.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good.
What's that bit? I want to see that again.
I'll teach it to you, come on.
No, come on.
On the ball of your feet and shake. That's it.
Oh, yeah. All right, stop it. Get back. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank our winning couple tonight, Athena and Lawrence. We also thank our luminous opponents, our stupid band, and our lovingly handcrafted full-size replica judges. Jamie, clear the airways of Foreign Matter, place us into the recovery position. There's life in the old show yet. Everybody, please.
A clear victory from a superior couple who left the competition choking on their dance floor dust.
Athena and Lawrence have now grabbed the last spot in the Group C final, making it an all-Aussie showdown.
Next week is the Group A final, where we find out which couple will be first through to the grand final. Until then, it's good night, please. Let's run on.
Me and the Gill Trap.
And don't forget to keep your dance card free next Friday night.
Up next, outcast cop Nikki Cole is caught off guard both on the job and off in 55 Degrees North.
Then, following Sea of Souls, a change of pace with a laughter-packed episode of The Lenny Henry Show.
There's no business like show.
The musical blows the dust off your soul, and unless you can make money, it don't count.
The stunning production of Broadway, the American musical, is now available on DVD.
Never put your own money in the show.
The lights of Broadway have always been irresistible.
Celebrate 100 years of musical theatre on DVD and CD from ABC shops, ABC centres, retailers and online.
The world's greatest adventurer, Casanova, is about to meet his match.
I love you.
What's the point of saying that? Get me to bed?
Sunday,
Very few men can hope to be remembered at all.
live the life of a legend.
I arrest you in the name of the Great Council of Venice for offences against the government and church.
Peter O'Toole
Since when was it filth to love a woman?
leads a dazzling cast
You never stop loving.
in a seductive premiere event. Casanova, Sunday, 8:35.
What's the one opera moment you can't live without? ABC Classic FM and Opera Australia need your help to compile the Classic 100 Opera, the ultimate guide to Australia's favourite opera moments. This could be an aria, duet or chorus, and if you can't name it, describe it. Look out for voting cards in Limelight magazine. Pick one up from your local ABC shop or ABC Centre, or you can vote online at abc.net.au/classic. The Classic 100 Opera. Vote today.
Good evening. Australia has banned live bird imports from Canada until it improves its testing regime. 3 pigeons imported from Canada recently showed up antibodies for bird flu. None of the birds left quarantine and there was no live virus, so authorities stress there's no threat to public health. However, the government's considering a total ban on live bird imports. A Melbourne man is facing execution in Singapore within the next few days after the government there rejected a final plea for clemency. 25-year-old Nguyen Tuong Van was convicted of smuggling heroin into Singapore 3 years ago. Foreign Minister Alexander Downer says all avenues of appeal have now been exhausted. And a Geelong great-grandfather who shot a neighbour 8 times for playing loud music has received a 3-year suspended sentence. The court heard 77-year-old Ernest Charles was suffering from the onset of dementia at the time. The weather with Paul Higgins.
Thanks, Ian. Another day of muggy weather is coming up, but it should be mainly fine tomorrow across the north after tonight's showers and storms clear, but the showers will be back in the south tomorrow afternoon. In Melbourne, a few showers tonight, humid again tomorrow with showers again in the afternoon, just a chance of a storm, 14 to 22 degrees, and it stays that way right into next week.
Monday night at 8 o'clock on Australian Story, the unexpected face of evil, actor John Jarrett, and the dream role that's turning him into the scariest man on the big screen. At 8:30 on Four Corners, a system of secrecy exposed as twins complete a remarkable search for their biological father.
Every child deserves the right to know where they came from.
That's Monday night on ABC. Prepare to be seduced. Sunday on ABC.
Let's get on with it.
At 7:30, uncover the man behind the masterpieces.
My works are my children.
The divine Michelangelo. Then unveil a seductive premiere.
Is it true, sir? All those stories about the old days?
Peter O'Toole is Casanova. And unearth a civilization ahead of its time on Compass.
This is a building with an identity crisis.
A night of wonders.
You are in for such a treat.
Sunday on ABC. Meet Harry, the new arrival at Starlight 39.
It is our right to use lethal force to prevent escape.
Is this mysterious new inmate a friend or foe?
What are the others saying about me?
Stoolie or straight up?
If there's a tunnel, I want to see it.
Can he be trusted with their secret mistress?
He knows about Elizabeth.
Inspired by true stories.
We can trust him, John. I'd bet my life on it.
Good, because you just did.
POW, 9:25 Saturday on ABC.
Let's find out more about this family.
They're getting closer to the truth.
Mommy.
But also closer to the evil.
Stay away from us.
Be warned.
We're out of our depth here.
Powerful forces will be unleashed.
Somebody killed that girl and they might want to harm Joe.
What's going on?
He's gone.
Sea of Souls, 9:25 tonight.
If it was a crime and the only witness is a 5-year-old child.
Next in Sea of Souls, the truth will be uncovered.
We're out of our depth here.
Heard he's corrupt. Transferred for blowing the whistle on his boss in London. Detective Nicole realizes that his punishment is far from over.
Paul's been investigated for corruption.
The enemy fit him up.
Who's accused me?
Was anonymous.
Seems old grudges die hard.
This is my payback for reporting my boss in London. You betrayed me.
If they don't investigate you and clear your name, you are damaged goods.
That's better be good, cool.
55 degrees north. Next week.
I don't need to tell you all the kind of man Tom was.
They're all grieving the loss of a husband, a father, and a friend.
Tom's memorial stands there in brick and mortar. They can't take that away.
Now, her decision will affect them all.
You have a young family. Chance to make a new start.
We can carry on what he started. All of us. This is where you belong.
Born and bred, 7:30 Saturday, ABC. In a time of indulgence.
I'm
tizzling like a boy on brittle.
One man's appetite was never satisfied.
Casanova.
Unveiling Sunday.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned again.
A seductive premiere.
Are you sure you don't need me, sir?
Out.
Starring Rose Byrne.
Is it true, sir, all those stories about the old days?
David Tennant.
If you could do what I could do, then you would do it too.
And Peter O'Toole.
That was easy.
What was?
Seducing.
Casanova premieres Sunday, 8:35.
Sea of Souls is rated M for a mature audience. It contains adult themes and violence.
You're Joe.
I know, but I used to be George.
When?
Before I was born.
He talks about living by lake, far away from here.
Oh, we study various things here. It's just that I have a special interest in children with anomalous or unexplained memories.
I just want to know why my son says he's called George. Why he's terrified of the water, and why he talks about his other mummy all the time.
He'll never really be happy until he knows what it is he's remembering. He needs to go to that place in the photograph.
George's house.
Right, bedtime, Joe. Joe's mentioned George. He's mentioned her a few times.
And we're not sure why this is, and we're trying to find out. Is she listed as missing?
Hi, she is. Has your son met Georgina?
It's a possibility. He seems to know a lot about this house.
Does Georgina speak Spanish?
Aye, she does. She was learning it. She was teaching herself. Aye, she left everything to do with Spain. She wanted to go and work there for the summer holidays, but her father wouldn't hear of it.
Friends. She's beautiful.
Aye. We had hundreds of these printed. So you think your son's remembered things she's told him?
We're not sure.
Was she a churchgoer?
Well, we tried to get her to understand the way of the Lord, you know, Sabbath observance at least.
Which church would that be?
Free Presbyterian.
That could be a problem in their teens.
If your son knows anything, it would mean the world to me and her father. He's never been the same since she went. He blames himself. I mean, they were a right pair, they were always fighting cat and dog, but he does love her.
Could I take this?
Aye, please do.
Thanks.
You all right?
The date George went missing. It's Joe's birthday. George. She's not somebody you've met, is she, Joe?
No.
Okay. The Free Presbyterian Church is a minority of the Free Church of Scotland. They refused to join the United Free Church in 1900.
Hi.
6,000 members, strict Calvinists. They are non-impressed with modern society. They followed the teachings of Calvin, who followed Martin Luther, who followed St. Augustine, who picked it up from St. Paul's epistle to the Romans.
Picked up what?
The theory of grace and election. Calvin taught predestination.
Meaning?
Meaning that God predestines certain souls to salvation and others to damnation. Now, if you believe that God predestines everything, then you are of the elect.
The elect?
The saved.
So how are you going to find the girl if the police can't?
I could post her photo on the internet.
She's already on the child register. Now, let's find out more about this family, but be subtle. This is a small island. Let's not be ham-fisted about this, Andrew.
Can I help you?
Dr. Douglas Monaghan, from Clyde University in Glasgow.
Oh, aye.
I'm looking for some information about one of your congregation, Georgina Mackay.
Have you found her?
Afraid not.
Do you know the family?
Oh, yes. She had a touch of wanderlust, I understand. She felt she'd outgrown us. That's the problem these days. There's not much to keep the young folk. We take what the Bible says as the truth. It's not always easy to live up to that. Was she troubled, do you think? Our beliefs don't carry a government health warning, Doctor. No, I meant the belief in divine preordaining, with regard to salvation of some and not of others. Well, might be a little severe for a teenager these days.
It's about going back to the Word. The Word as written, not some convenient interpretation.
But isn't that in itself an interpretation?
No.
Very bright. But I know she wasn't happy at home.
What way?
I told the police this years ago, when she disappeared. She'd had bruises. I tried to talk to her about it, but she wouldn't have it, so I let it go.
Why? You were a teacher.
I was an incomer, and not the most popular choice for teacher here. There are some that would rather I teach creation than evolution. Ashamed to say I was keeping my head down.
Did she use the internet?
Don't know.
Any boyfriends?
She did have a friend, an older boy, Thomas. The rumour at the time was that he killed her. They all thought that around here.
Why?
When she disappeared, the police interviewed him a few times. Only because he had a record, enough to set tongues wagging.
A record for what?
Assault. He did 8 months in Peterhead. He was on probation then. A bit of a handful with a drink in him. Hurry.
Hello, Ellen. How did you know we were here?
Well, there is only one hotel. Can I show the boys some photographs? Have you seen her before? Do you know her? Where have you seen her?
I love you more than anything in the world.
Daddy.
That's right. That's Georgina's daddy. How does he know that? He must know Georgina.
It's Thomas.
You know Thomas? Recognises him.
Thomas.
Thomas was a friend. August didn't approve.
I liked Thomas.
You like Thomas? Georgina liked Thomas too.
Yes, I liked him.
What does he mean?
I liked Thomas.
Why does he keep saying that?
Ellen, I have to be honest here. This is very strange. Joe isn't saying that he met Georgina. He's saying that he is Georgina.
Why would a child say that?
Because he remembers being Georgina. I don't know why, but he does.
You're my other mummy.
I don't know if you're a con man or something, but I don't want to hear any more of this. Do you hear me?
I'm sorry, Ellen. I'm just trying to understand myself. They think it might be some kind of reincarnation.
And how can that be? My daughter's alive. My daughter is still alive.
Ellen! Ellen, please wait.
Stay away from me. Stay away from my family. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I'll try to talk to her tomorrow. Try to explain.
Is that a good idea?
I need her to help us to understand what's happening here.
I just want what's best for Joe.
Of course. I promise I'll look after him, but I feel that he needs to understand these memories, or he'll be disturbed by them for the rest of his life.
Can I have oranges, please?
Fancy a game?
Yeah, why not?
What brings you up here then? You're a walker.
Yeah, I just fancied a break, fresh air and all that. Used to come here when I was younger. I'm Megan, by the way.
Thomas.
Yeah, I used to know a girl that lived around here. Maybe you'd know her. Georgina. She's still about.
More days, I think it'll be good for Joe.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he's fine.
Are you sure? I spoke to his teacher today and she said that he's been talking about some imaginary mum.
Why are you talking to her? What are you up to?
I'm not up to anything.
Why are you talking to his teacher? It's got nothing to do with you.
Nothing to do with me. Of course it has.
I will talk to his teacher, okay? There's nothing wrong with him.
You're not drinking.
And one more thing. Piss off.
You're not welcome in my house. If that's what you want, that's what I want. You can look. I want you to look. Who are they saying today? Your daughter? Aye. Sent on her last year class school postmark. Now, I want you to stop filling my wife's head with all this nonsense. This is definitely her handwriting. Can't mistake it. Get one every 6 months or so. You shown them to the police? She'll come home when she's ready. I'm
sorry. I should have mentioned it. I wouldn't have worried her if I'd known they existed.
How can a grown man believe in such things? The soul being reborn again and again. Do you not believe in heaven and hell?
I believe there is a precedent in the Bible for reincarnation. Didn't the Jews expect that Elijah the prophet would reappear and precede the Messiah?
John the Baptist. But he was put on this earth to do God's work. You were not. Stay away from us.
Can I ask just one thing? Why didn't your wife tell me about the postcards?
She was confused.
You're right.
You know, there's something about a woman in a cagoule that I find very hard to resist.
Try. Find anything?
There is a Thomas. He was Georgina's boyfriend. A bit dodgy by all accounts. He's got a record.
That doesn't surprise me. I just met him.
What? What happened?
I think I annoyed him.
I've just met Georgie's father.
You talked to him?
It appears she's still alive. He's been receiving postcards from her. I saw them.
I don't understand.
She's alive, Megan. We need to talk to Joe again. Do you know what happens when you die, Joe?
We have a funeral.
That's right, a funeral. And what happens then? Do you go up to heaven to be with Jesus?
No.
No. So what happens then?
You become someone else.
Like George?
Not everyone.
Well, not everyone becomes like someone else.
Others go to hell. God's decided.
And is that what George believed?
Yes.
Right, now, Joe, there are some things you need to tell us, and you have to tell the truth.
No more stories, Joe. You can't make stuff up. Do you understand?
Where is George now?
In the water.
Now, what do you mean? In the loch or in the sea?
George is in the water. They made her.
They made her?
They hurt George.
Now, who hurt George? It's all right, you can tell me. Is George alive?
I couldn't breathe.
Joe, you have to tell the truth. Did George tell you this? Did you make this up?
It's all right if you did. We all get mixed up, even grown-ups.
I couldn't breathe.
I know, but you have to try and remember.
That's it. Breathe now. Breathe. Breathe steady. That's it. That's good. Going to be all right. Now, Joe, where is George now?
She's in the water.
Is he saying that someone killed this girl?
Sounds like that.
Why did he say all that stuff about hell? I never taught him that.
Seems like a combination of what he and George have both been taught. It's a strange hybrid.
Douglas, could I have a word with you, please? Do you believe him? What about the postcards?
Could be fake. Could be the girl's killer sending the cards.
So, do we go to the police? Ask them to look for the body?
And what do we say to them?
Well, does it matter? Just ask them to reopen the case.
Why would the family lie? This is a case of false memory syndrome. It's the only rational explanation here.
So we don't do anything?
We're not here to solve crime, Megan.
Well, why are we here then, eh? Why did we come?
Good question. What did you hope to find here?
Honestly? At the most, a grave. Yeah, I hoped we would find a grave, and I think we have. It's just that you, Andrew, are too scared to look into it.
We're out of our depth here. This
This is people's lives we're messing with. We could be putting ourselves and others at risk here.
Do you think I don't realise that? Something extraordinary is happening here, Andrew. The greatest opportunity we've had to break new ground, to substantiate a past life memory. Do you want to throw all that away?
There's somebody I think you should talk to.
Not interested.
In what?
People who insult my intelligence.
We just want to ask you some questions about your friend, Georgina. We're trying to find her.
If she wanted to be found, we'd know about it. You cops, journalists. What?
No, we're from the parapsychology unit at Clyde University.
What? She had a weird relationship with her dad. He's a Bible basher. Treated her like she was a kid.
Have you heard from her?
No.
Not even a postcard?
You know they think I killed her around here.
You're surprised you haven't heard from her?
Not really. She wanted me to go with her, you see. I did it.
And why didn't you go?
But see, to you where Georgina is.
Someone came to us claiming she never left the island.
She did. I saw her the day she went.
Can you tell us about that?
We met down by the loch. We'd had a plan for weeks. But I changed my mind. I told her I couldn't break my probation and...
Was that the truth?
No. It was about another girl. Annie Cairns. Got her pregnant. I told George and she went mental. Punching me, screaming. She was desperate for me to go with her.
So you left her there?
Aye. Went home. That was the last time I saw her.
And you and the other girl?
She miscarried. We split. I tried to find George after that. Put an ad in the Spanish papers for her to contact me. Posted a message on the internet. Nothing. I missed her. Still do.
Thanks, Thomas.
Hello.
I need to talk to you.
Just leave me, please.
Why did you lie about the postcards? Why didn't you mention them to Monin?
August believes they were from Georgina.
And you don't? Is that what you mean?
You're a mother. You can feel it, can't you? You can just feel something is wrong.
Well, as part of you feels she's not alive, don't you want to know what happened to her?
Would you?
What if I said, I believe Joe may be Georgina reborn?
August would say the Bible tells us that only Christ rose again.
What would you say, Ellen?
How do you say my child is dead? Is that what you're saying? I'll never see her again. I'll never hear her voice again. In my heart, I cannot believe that. She was my only child.
Don't give me that look. Stay away. The boy. Any boys.
You know what I think? From all the information we have now, I think her father killed her. Sent the postcards himself.
If she's dead.
We've got beatings, we've got controlling behaviour. I mean, he must have had something to do with it.
It all made sense, except for one thing. If there was a crime, then the only witness is a 5-year-old child who wasn't even born when it happened. Are you finding it difficult to see a non-paranormal explanation, Andrew?
No. I know we'll find one.
So what's our next step?
Well, that I'm not sure about.
First things first, Georgina Mackay isn't at the bottom of Loch Moyle, Dr. Morton. I can assure you. And secondly, it's only me here. I'd have to call in the Highland Division. To send divers over by helicopter, I don't think they'd appreciate that in this weather.
Isn't there a diver on the island who could take a look?
Well, they did that years ago. Anyway, the girl's been in contact with her family.
I'm not sure that she has.
Well, even supposing somebody agreed to take a look, where would they start? I mean, it's a hell of a big loch.
By the Jessie.
What's that, son?
She's near the Jessie.
And how would you know that?
I remember.
You do you?
I suppose you have many mysterious deaths up this neck of the woods. And when you do, I'm sure the big boys from the mainland come over and steal all the glory.
Aye, that's their style right enough. If I was the glory hunting type, do you think I'd still be here in Canassie?
No, I don't suppose you wouldn't.
Right, I'll tell you what to do. Just to prove I don't mind being patronised. I'll give a fella called Willie Davidson a call. He might be able to help you. Do you want to sit in the car? You might be down there a while.
Fine here, thanks.
I think he's found something.
It's George, I told you.
Aye. Ah, that's fine. Well, I'll give them all the space they need. Ah, that's not a problem. All right then. Bye. CID are setting up an incident room. The body's going to be examined here. Once we have an ID, Cause of death. Well, that'll be down to the big boys. They'll probably want to work with you. Would you mind doing that somewhere else, son? That is my filing cabinet. Now, between you and me, what's going on?
The boy seems to believe he had a previous life on this island.
Like these kids?
Exactly. But this is the most convincing case I've ever come across. I just can't find any explanation as to why he knows so much about the girl.
Well, what else does he remember?
Mostly about the moment of death. The rest, just fragments.
Was she killed?
I don't know.
No. Maybe if we find out who sent those postcards, we'll have an answer.
Can I ask you something? If you don't think for a moment that there is anything in all of this, then why'd you join the unit?
It's not that. You see, what's fascinating to me isn't whether someone's lived before or can see the future or whatever. It's why they think they can. Not the ghosts, but the power of the human mind to see the ghost. The most extraordinary factor in all the research I've done is always the human mind. Look, when we get back...
What? If you check your diary and discover you don't have a girlfriend for next week?
You've got me so wrong. Look, I'm flattered that you think I'm this kind of Don Juan character, but the truth is...
More like Don Johnson.
The truth is, I think you're fabulous. Hey.
I heard there were divers in the loch. What's happening?
All I know is that they found a girl.
Was it George?
I don't know, Thomas. Sorry.
What was she wearing?
I don't know.
It's her. It's George.
Maybe we shouldn't have come here. I mean, she'd still be alive in their minds.
If it's her.
It's been confirmed. It is Georgina Akai.
Do you mind if I ask you how she died?
Can't tell you that until the pathologist has finished his examinations. Better let the family know. Helen! Bad news, Ellen. I'm so sorry.
Check the ferry time. There's one at 4.
If you really want to go, we'll all go back.
I really want to go. Joe, can you go and play in the bathroom for a minute, please? Somebody killed that girl and they might want to harm Joe.
I'll make sure that nothing happens to him.
You can't say that. It's just another photograph on your wall.
That's not fair.
Joe comes first with me, everyone else second. Do you understand?
Katie, I have seen kids like Joe all over the world. I've seen their fear, their confusion. Can't you see he's trying to tell us what happened? And we have to listen to him. He has to confront these memories, or they'll torment him. Now, you think you're doing the right thing by walking away, but please let me assure you, you're not. You're letting Joe down if you do. I swear I won't let anything happen to him. Please, come with me to see Ellen just one more time. Okay.
Hey! They're saying the boy knew where to look. How does he know? How does he know?
Thomas, it's just talk.
Does he know who killed her? Does he know?
It's just talk, Thomas.
Calm down, Thomas. We don't know any more than you do, okay?
There he is. I want to know who killed her.
We don't have an answer to that.
I remember you. I remember what you did.
I'll see if she's round here.
Ellen?
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 Take notes.
Take a look at those postcards. I need to know who sent them.
I don't know who sent them.
The DNA of the person who sent those postcards will be on the stamps. Now, the CID will swab everybody on the island. They will find out who sent them. We're trying to help you, Ellen.
He burned them as soon as he heard the news.
Why?
I don't know.
I'm sorry to have to ask you this at this time, but do you think it's possible that August murdered Georgina and that's why he killed himself?
He loved her. He loved his daughter.
You all right, Joe? You'll be going home soon. And we'll make all your bad dreams go away.
It's okay. I like it here.
We've got to get out of here now, Douglas. What has this got to do with us? What has this got to do with our research? This is a murder investigation.
I know, but it's...
We can never prove something like this. We'd all have to have past life memories like those before people would be convinced. You know that.
I'd be happy enough just to convince myself.
Looks like we've got our man, eh?
It looks that way.
We've got to go back tomorrow.
Now there's an interesting twist we could try. On the other side, here's a hot pot. It's hot very, very
Ah, Katie.
Wanted to look at the stars. Can't see them in London. God, I feel like a drink tonight. So, you're looking forward to going back? waiting for you at home?
No.
Oh.
Well, I was married. We met at university. She died in childbirth. They both did.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pry.
No, it's all right. It was a long time ago.
Can't imagine that kind of pain goes away.
No, but it eases. Slightly.
Makes sense.
Oh, I know what you're thinking. That's not the reason why I'm interested in past life memories.
But you want to believe it's true, don't you? The soul living on.
Of course. Don't you? There's so much we don't know about. I suppose I want to change that. See you tomorrow.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, Joe, time to go to bed. Gotta get up early in the morning.
I don't want to go home.
We have to go home.
I want to see my Uncle Mummy.
I'm your mummy, Joe. Only me. And I have to go back to work.
I want to stay.
Stop it! Joe!
I want to stay.
Do you want your inhaler?
No, I want to stay.
Joe? Joe?
Andrew, just for our records, could you ask Mulgrew to give us as much detail as possible about the cause of death? Sure.
Is Joe with you? Have you seen him?
No, I haven't seen him.
He's gone. Oh, Christ. Ellen. He's gone to see Ellen.
I don't like milk.
Georgina didn't like milk either.
I know. Are you sad?
Yes, I'm sad. I'm very sad.
Were you sad for George?
Of course. I've lost the two people I loved the most.
You didn't love George.
That's not true. I did. Is it you? Is it really you? He didn't mean to hurt you, you know. You know he didn't mean to hurt you. You know that, don't you? Don't you, George? It wasn't all his fault, was it? You can't just blame him. He was a good man, he was. He was a good man.
That's not true.
He never meant to do the things he did.
I don't want this.
Don't you be telling lies about me and your father.
You hurt me.
I never hurt you.
You made me drown.
That's not true. I loved you.
You don't deserve to be forgiven. You deserve to die and to never be reborn.
You don't mean that. You loved me. I never hurt you.
Well, hang on. Christ. Those guys.
Joe? Joe, are you okay?
I did love her. I did.
How did you fake the postcards, Ellen?
It wasn't difficult. I used a postmark stamp from the post office.
And why did you send them?
I knew he'd do something stupid if he thought that she was dead. I tried to keep his hope alive. But I tried to protect him. I should have protected her, shouldn't I?
You don't believe your husband killed Georgina, do you?
No. Not for 1 second.
I want you to look at these photographs, Joe. Try and remember what happened to George before she went into the water. It's very important, Joe.
I remember.
Thomas? Thomas, is that you?
Just where do you think you're going, eh? Get back to the house now. Come back! Georgina! Georgina!
Where's your bags?
Not going.
George and Thomas had a fight. Do you remember what happened after the fight, John?
Sandy count.
What about her?
She's pregnant.
What's that got to do with us?
Everything.
Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me!
Can't walk away from the girl.
Is that what you want? You want her instead of me!
Thomas was angry. He hit George.
Why was he angry?
George said she told police bad things about him. Said that he'd go back to jail.
Shut up!
He put his hands around her neck and squeezed it really, really tightly. Then I don't remember.
Are you saying that Thomas killed George, Joe? You sure, Joe?
No!
Are you? Sergeant Mulgrew, it's Dr. Monahan.
This doesn't look good. Better let CID know.
She's freezing. I'm gonna get something.
You should do what George wants.
How much?
Cause of death.
You wouldn't say. Well, what's wrong?
Joe says Thomas strangled George and then dumped her in the water.
Christ, really?
I think he's lying. Could you get my number for Thomas? I need to talk to him.
I can't give you that information. I have to report to D.I. Mackenzie unless you've been put in charge of this investigation and nobody told me.
No, you don't understand. I just need to know how she died. You don't have to tell me anything else.
I don't have to tell you anything at all.
Was she strangled?
I can't give you that information.
Was she strangled? I need to know.
Put it this way. Her hyoid bone wasn't fractured. If she'd been strangled, it would have been.
Flyer from the garage has got his mobile number on it.
I think she drowned herself.
Don't understand.
She was desperate to leave. Thomas was her only hope. And he broke her heart. I think she walked into that loch on her own. Now she's using Joe to get revenge. What have I done?
Down, you silly bastard.
Thomas, George Monahan.
Cops for a mate, please.
What's going on?
They just want to talk to you. It's all right, it's okay.
I was the last person to see her alive. They'll say I did it.
No, they won't. They won't, Thomas.
They're going to put me away again.
No, they won't. Trust me.
It's Doctor's mother, isn't it? She's put the boy up to it.
Thomas.
Megan. Yes, me. Look, Joe's lying. Don't let him out of your sight. And be careful if you see Thomas.
He might come looking for Helen.
He might come here. Why?
He's not thinking straight.
Where's Joe?
Boys with you.
Joe?
It wasn't Thomas.
We found hundreds of clippings in his trailer. It was like a bloody shrine.
He didn't do it.
He's heading for the croft.
Is that Joe?
almost didn't hurt George. She drowned herself, didn't she? Do you know what you've done? Do you?
It was an accident.
I don't know who my son is anymore.
It wasn't Joe. It was George.
But Joe is George, isn't he?
But now that George has done what she set out to do, the memories will fade. And then Joe will just become your little boy again.
Do you really believe that?
I do.
People shouldn't know what's happened, dear. I mean, this is the proof you've been waiting for, isn't it?
What proof? He lied. He's unreliable.
There's no other answer.
There's always another answer.
That's crap, and you know it.
No, he's right, Megan. Nobody would believe a word we said.
We'll make them believe.
You really want people to know what happened here? What? 2 died, lives ruined, and we're responsible.
But we're not.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. And what about those 2? What's going to happen to them? No. I put them through enough.
So, we forget this ever happened.
I don't see any choice.
Join us on Sunday for the story of the world's greatest lover. A life dedicated to pleasure, but one thing eluded him. David Tennant, Peter O'Toole and Rose Byrne star in Casanova, 8:35 Sunday night on ABC.
I need to talk to someone. I think my brother's been killed.
Her brother goes missing.
Seems to believe he's been kidnapped by a cult.
But when she begins her search...
Stay away from them.
We don't track down missing people.
She plunges headlong...
Can you help me?
...into a frightening underworld.
They took my brother. Now they want me.
Gripping drama. Yeah, mate! Sea of Souls. Next week. Saturday. Start the night with a fond farewell and end with a fresh hello.
Worried I might cause a scene.
Nigel Havers arrives in Born and Bred.
I fell in love with his wife.
Meet the mad, bad schoolgirls out of control on the bill.
That sounds like a good place to start.
What secrets does this new arrival bring to Starlight 39?
He knows about Elizabeth.
Is he friend or foe? POW.
One of our ships is missing.
It's wedding bells and setting sails with the master and commander, Hornblower.
I suppose you think this is a bad time to get married.
It's a great night in. Saturdays on ABC.
Find about Sunday, how one man's imagination made the mundane immortal.
Michelangelo, Sunday.
Unforgettable. In those days, nobody ever thought of a black artist selling to a white audience.
But there'd never been anyone quite like Nat King Cole.
People coming out to the airport, they were all on the tarmac. The whole country would come out to meet this man.
He was cool before it was cool to be cool. And he turned the entertainment industry upside down.
Everything he touched turned into gold.
The World of Nat King Cole, 9:30 Monday.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
What's your name?
Audrey.
Your name is Audrey. Where are you from?
Australia.
You're from Australia?
Yes.
Hi, how are you? What's your name?
Cleo.
Your name is Cleo?
Yes.
Great, where are you from?
New Zealand.
What is going on? Hang on a minute, I've got to go and talk to this guy. What's your name?
Mark.
Your name is Mark?
Yeah.
Where are you from, Mark?
Western Australia.
Western Australia. Do you know this one here? Put your hands through there and say hello.
Hello.
Are there any English people here at all? Because at some point I might speak to you. Wait, so Western Australia, what do you do, Mark?
Police officer.
You're a police officer? Well, I'll move that then. Because... Actually, Mark, could you look in that camera there and say, let's do the show right now? That one there.
Let's do the show right now.
Do it!
Lenny, 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 Lenny. Lenny Henry Show.
Watch this.
Hold the beat, stop the beat, rock the beat.
Come forward.
Lenny, 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 Lenny,
Let the
Lenny,
children to
Lenny.
bed. Them girls are crazy. Go on, then. Oh, yeah. Hello. Hello. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the show. It's Friday, May the 14th. It's great to have you here. What's been happening this week? I hear you cry. Well, I'm going to tell you. London police seized 4 times more cocaine last year than the year before. Can you believe this? A police spokesman said, it's fantastic news. Brilliant. I like your shirt. It's fancy going clubbing. Isn't that Jody Kid over there? The Bee Gees. The Bee Gees have been awarded an honorary doctorate by Manchester University this week. And in another ceremony, the Cheeky Girls were awarded an honorary GCSE in Home Economics from Watford Tech. Love those girls. Robert Kilroy Silk has announced that he's to stand at the next election. That's it, that's the joke. David Blunkett, ladies and gentlemen, is threatening to ban happy hour. Thanks a lot, David. After the news we've had this week, what we all need is a stiff drink and a fag. Next, he'll make them change the names of all the cocktails. Instead of a slow, comfortable screw, it'll be a peck on the cheek from your nan. A Manhattan will be a Stoke-on-Trent. And a screaming orgasm will be a slight twinge in the nether regions. Oh boy, this show throbs. You ready for some show? Yeah. Mr. Vic Reeves is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Jocelyn at SCM, we've got Tamsin Gregg. We've also got 50 Cent. Well, it kind of looks like him. I think he hasn't been to the gym for a while. Do not go away. You need to be here. Don't go away.
Soundbite News Digest from London, England.
Hello, and welcome to Soundbite News Digest. The show that grinds the news down into a fine powder so it's much more easily absorbed into the brain stream.
Especially prepared for an American audience.
This week's show is brought to you by the Suppositron, a revolutionary new device which can shoot up to 200 pills a second into any major orifice.
The Suppositron, it does for medicine what the machine gun did for warfare, only with slightly more therapeutic results. I really don't like this bit.
Come on, Sam, give it a bounce. They pay, we say.
And now, Now, global news update.
Rome, Italy. TV weather girl Eleonora Padron has been allowed back to work following suspension for posing in a men's magazine wearing only a G-string. Mike, do we have a film report of that to show the viewers?
No, apparently someone took the tape home to view. And it didn't come back.
All right.
Washington, D.C. George Bush has said this week that he stands squarely behind his Defense Secretary, Donald Rumsfeld.
Let's face it, it's a good place to hide. London, England. And President Blair this week...
Prime Minister Blair.
Is there a difference?
No, but we like to keep up the illusion. Prime Minister Blair this week met Chinese President Wen Jiabao.
5 minutes later, he said, you know what, I really feel like I could meet that guy again. You know why? Because Chinese food, you eat it and then...
So Mexicans are poor, Poles are thick, Arabs cheat.
How come we know so much about our foreign policy?
London, England.
Again?
Tributes continue to pour in following the death of show business legend George the Tortoise, who died this week, aged 83.
George, full name George the Tortoise, appeared for over 20 years on Blue Peter. Isn't that a porn channel?
No.
Well, I don't know. I only read this stuff, you know.
George will be remembered for his unique range of talents, which included eating lettuce leaves, sitting around in a cardboard box and hibernating for 8 months of the year. Reminds me of someone, really.
A BBC spokesman said he was a great star whose talents will be impossible to replace.
But at least he is on his way to tortoise heaven. He should arrive there sometime in 2045.
More tortoise news now. In Hawaii, a giant... Yeah, you're probably right. Enough tortoise stuff. And that's the news. We'll be back later on with the Soundbite News Hot Seat.
After these completely unrelated messages.
Don't flip.
Amen. So, Sister Daphne, how are things with Marvin? Is he showing any more interest in, you know?
The physical side?
Yes.
No. Marvin, the physical side of marriage is like land wages. He can remember going there a few times in the summer, but he can't be bothered to go back. I thought about dressing up as something that might get him excited.
Where are you going to get an outfit that looks like chicken rice and peas? What about dressing him up?
Do you think he could look like Pierce Brosnan?
Without a miracle. I think the Lord would have to phone a friend on that one.
Praise the Lord. Did you do any role playing with Garfield?
Oh yes, I played the role of faithful wife, and he played the role of womanizing swine. And I did dress as an airline stewardess once.
What happened?
We went through some severe turbulence, and he was sick.
Marvin doesn't like flying either.
And I dressed as a bus conductress.
That sounds good.
Trouble is, I got carried away. He offered me a £20 note for a 50p fare, and I threw him off the bus. Daphne, you know what would ring my bells?
What's that?
A young man dressed as a pastor.
Like the new pastor.
Oh, yes. He could worship at my altar any day.
But he's a real pastor.
I know, just imagine that. A man who could lead you into temptation and then forgive you your sins, all without getting out of the car. Amen to that.
Thank you. I've been married for 20 years. In America, they clap for that. Don't patronize me! And the one thing I've learnt is this. In every relationship, there has to be a good cop and a bad cop. The softie and the hard man. The doormat and the kitten drowner. I think you know which one I am. Yes, I have the T-shirt which says, "Save the kittens." And this is true of most guys, don't you think? And what's that old saying? Behind every great man, there's a woman going, "What'd you do that for?" You've got Winston Churchill there. "We shall fight them on the beaches." His missus is behind him going, "Oh, no, you don't do that. You get sand everywhere." Thing is, however much we love and respect our partners, sometimes it's really nice to be on your own. Some me time, you know what I mean? One way of achieving this is to commit some kind of crime. The easier way to do this, of course, is to get a shed. because for a man, the shed is sacrosanct, right? Even God had a shed. He was in there creating the world with his Black & Decker workbench, all the tools beautifully laid out, the first ever Pirelli calendar on the wall, every single month, Eve. Mrs. God's at the door. What are you doing in there? I'm creating the world. Why does it take you so long? You've been in there all week. God's like, for me's sake. Can't I just get 5 minutes peace? So, of course, he rushes Australia. Which explains everything, really. Come on. It's too hot, they've got too many weird animals, and they can't play rugby, Mark. I'm sorry I had to say it. I had to say it, Mark.
Here you are, your beautiful baby girl. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I must take a picture.
Oh, let me just put on my lipstick. Okay, ready.
Now, I think we'd like to spend some time on our own. So, if you wouldn't mind going.
No, I haven't finished yet. I still have work to do. As this is your first child, I have to perform my special welcome dance for your baby girl. Welcome, welcome to the world. Welcome, welcome baby girl. Welcome, welcome to the world.
With this white boy once. I met him in a club one night. I wasn't even going out that night, but Alicia called me up and said that she managed to get her kids' dads to come and look after them, and that she wasn't missing this once in a 5-year opportunity. So he gets in and we hits the dance floor. Not the dance floor, just the pose in our new Moschino jackets. See, because my cousin Flex knows this guy, who knows this guy, who knows this girl, whose cousin works in the stock room at Selfridges. So sometimes a rack of clothes might be on its way to the shop floor, and oops, he trips over, and the rack ends up falling into the boot of his escort. I ain't asking. Anyway, so we pose on the dance floor for a little bit, and then we take off our jackets and we put them on top of the speakers. Because I ain't paying no one £1 to hang my coat up. And all these guys is coming up to me, trying to impress me with their fake diamond Rolexes. I ain't having it. Do these guys think I'm stupid? How's a girl going to believe that that's a real Rolex when you work on a Saturday in Blockbuster? I don't think so. Anyway, so I'm at the bar with Alicia, and this white guy kind of slides up to me and starts giving me the chat. Now, a couple of years ago, white guys never really chat to us ghetto girls because they was a bit scared, but now J-Lo's made it all possible. He wasn't bad looking. His name was Stephen. We had a little chat, we had a bit of a dance, and then we swapped numbers. But when I say swapped, he gave me his number, I gave him the number for Pizza Hut. What? You think I'm just going to give him my number just like that, just give it out there? I don't think so. There's got to be some mystery. Anyway, I hadn't paid my bill that month. We went out for a little bit, we went out for a little while, it was all right, but I had to set up some ground rules. Number 1, I only eat chips if there's no food in my house. Number 2, when you're kissing me, don't be running your fingers through my hair because it's taking me hours to get ready and you might get caught up in the stitching. Number 3, when we go out clubbing, don't be dancing too close and rubbing all your sweat on my Versace dress because the chances are I have to take you back to the shop on the Monday. Everybody does it.
Relationships are tricky because we don't know what we want, okay? Some women want 2 for 1. They want a combination of warrior guy and Mr. Sensitive. You know, the kind of guy who'll kill a bull for you with his bare hands and then make you a nice pair of slacks with the skin. The kind of guy who'll rip your clothes off, drag you by your hair to the bedroom and then exfoliate. I'm jealous of the young lovers, you know, you see them on the beach chasing each other. Splashing each other. Lovely. You can tell the long-time married couples at the beach. They're going to the sea hand in hand. Any sign of splashing, she's got him in a headlock. Splash me again, you're dead, okay? I told you I didn't want to get my hair wet. Tell you something about women, right? I was at Notting Hill Carnival. Anyone go to Carnival? I was at Notting Hill Carnival a couple of years ago, right? Music was pumping, everybody having a nice time. This woman walks up to a guy, right? She didn't know him from Adam, but she was like... He was on the floor, she was like this. He was coming up like that. She was winding her waist like that. The guy was cool, he was texting all the time, it was happening. She was like this all over the guy. When the record come to an end, right, he asked her for her phone number. She said, "Who do you think I am? I'm not that kind of girl, you know." Keys was like, "Sorry." It's a tough job being a policeman at Carnival, isn't it?
Welcome back to the Soundbite News Hot Seat. Now, Sam and I were just slapping our gums and talking about a story in the press this week.
Yes, it seems a firm in Mexico is making coffins with a speaker system, so that if you're buried alive, you can alert people and thus be rescued.
And it's true, it's absolutely true. And now it seems that someone in Britain, Mr. Maximilian Hardcastle,
hello there,
has had the same idea. Now, Maximilian, you're an undertaker, right?
I prefer to call myself a consultant professor of death studies.
And you have developed a system to avoid the problems of premature burial.
Yes, our system's a lot better than the Mexican one because our top-of-the-range casket, called the fail-safe casket, has a two-way phone video link, an MP3 player in the lid, so you can download your favorite music from the web. Plus, they're trying to dig you out.
That's some service you got there.
Plus, we provide suggestions for some songs that you might like to hear whilst you're waiting, like Living in a Box. We've got to get out of this place. Going Underground. Knocking on Heaven's Door. Or a favourite for the prematurely buried, Whispering Grass.
Some people might say that this move of yours has been prompted by a number of unfortunate incidents of premature burial in your own funeral parlour.
They might say that, yes.
They might say that and be correct in saying that, might they not indeed be so?
In certain very limited cases, yes, but you see, we have a very difficult job to do here. On the one hand, we have to provide a swift, modern, efficient service with a minimum amount of fuss.
Yeah, and on the other hand, you have to try and avoid banging up live guys in a box.
It's a fine line we have to strike.
And not one you seem to be very good at.
Thank you.
I note here you're offering a service where people are buried with the Open University English syllabus. So in the event of them being buried for 3 years at least, they'll come out with a degree.
We take the attitude that death isn't something to lament. It's actually an opportunity.
For who?
For whom?
For him.
For me. We want people to be familiar with death in the same way that they might be familiar with stroking a small pussy by the fire of an evening.
You know what, I like this guy. He talks my language.
I understand you make celebrity coffins.
Yes, we've just done one for a big rapper from LA, MC Large.
I've heard of that guy.
He heard about us and ordered a stretch casket. And also, Ozzy Osbourne has ordered one. Mounted atop a quad.
Right, well, before this migraine engulfs me completely, may I just ask, possibly, whatever happened to Dignity?
They had a couple of hits and then split up. I believe one of them is now a woman.
Stop now or I'll kill you.
She's hot too, and that was the Soundbite News interview.
You're not a real undertaker, are you?
No.
With Rolly Dixon.
Who's incredibly gullible. And Samantha Ford.
Who's not. Thank you very much. Good night. Good evening. Good evening.
My name is Lister. This is my corner shop. When I bought it in 1977, it wasn't a corner shop. But the laundrette next door fell down. Did you see that about Ray Parler, the Arsenal footballer? His wife is divorcing him and she wants £400,000 a year. She says she helped to make him a star. She taught him the offside rule. She showed him how to take a penalty. If she's that good, how come she don't play for bloody Arsenal? She's taking credit for getting him off the booze. But if somebody wanted £400,000 from me, then damn sure I'd hit the buckle to hard. You know, it's hard running a shop. I have to do everything I can to compete with the big supermarkets. Sainsbury's has just signed Jamie Oliver for £1.2 million. Just for saying, this tastes poker, and that tastes poker. I tell you something, that's a poker for a lot of money. How can I compete with that? I'm approaching the smaller celebrities, that's what I'm doing. At the moment, I'm negotiating with Chesney Hawks. I've offered him £23.50. 25 if you don't bloody sing. The trouble with these supermarkets is they don't source their products from the local area. I only sell local produce in this here shop. I get all my vegetables from the allotments down by the viaduct. The people who own the allotments don't realize this, but at least I'm supporting the local economy. I'm organizing a march to save the corner shop. It's called the March to Save the Corner Shop. Catchy, ain't it? Trouble is, we need a lot of people to get number 10 to take notice. Last year, 2 million people marched past Tony Blair's house and he didn't take a blind bit of notice. You think when a little toddler needed some sleep, at least he'd come out and ask people to keep the blouse and skirt nice down? I don't understand why he's following that George Bush around. I don't think Bush is the right man. His eyes are too close together. So is his mouth and his ass. You can't tell where the voice is coming from. You got 260 million people in America, and this man is the best I can come up with. They do better with that big fat chicken fag on leg on. He may be a cartoon character. But at least folks wouldn't laugh at him as much as this guy. Everybody's been apologizing this week. Bush, Blair, Rumsfeld, Jeff Hoon, Dirty Den. What is it with that damn fool Jeff Hoon, eh? Does anybody know what the hell the man is talking about? Instead of giving interviews, he should just release a cover version of that song by Shaggy. It wasn't me. Mr. Hoon, can I ask you a question? It wasn't me. What about those photographs? It wasn't me. Did she have you on the sofa? It wasn't me. He calls himself defense minister. The only thing he's defending is his own backside. But there's one good thing about him. If I can't get Chesney Hawks for £25, pretty soon I'll be able to get that idiot for 50 pence.
Welcome to the
That was...
No, I haven't finished yet. That was just for her birth. Now I sing for the first year of her life. Yeah. Come on, now, you better sit down because this goes up until she is 18 years old. Yeah, well, hey, come on,
Please live. Oh, it's me. I can see. Come home. So go. Let me your window. One of my favourite songs for you there. And now it's time for the Human Jukebox. Yes. Call in on 07700 900 464 and ask for any song you like, and Tony, the Human Jukebox, will sing it for you. Ooh, and here's our first caller. Hello, and what song would you like?
Yeah, hi. Could I have anything by Westlife, please?
Anything by Westlife, please, Human Jukebox.
I would rather dead.
Is there any other song you'd like to hear?
Oh, I Am Beautiful by Christina Aguilera.
I'm Beautiful, please, Human Jukebox.
kiss my neck back.
Any other song you'd like to hear?
Something by Celine Dion.
Anything by Celine Dion, human jukebox. Maybe I could sing you a song.
Okay. As long as it's not anything by Kate Bush.
Okay, here we go. Wuthering, 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 eyes keep clear.
Once you're in a relationship, the trick is to keep things going, keep things ticking over. And there are simple things you can do. All the fellas in the house say, yeah. Yeah. Guys, surprise her occasionally. Go home sober. Or just go home, that might be a start. Every now and then, buy your wife something really expensive. You might as well, because half your money's hers anyway. So it's like getting a 50% discount. And when you do buy that really expensive gift for her, remember, guys, not all women want a cement mixer, okay? All the ladies in the house go, girls, when you finish that special romantic dinner together, try serving the dessert naked. Climb on the table, cover yourself with strawberries and whipped cream and invite him to lick it all up. But always remember to check with the head waiter first, obviously. Girls, when the kids have gone to school, why not sneak in and join them in the shower in the morning and help them with the gratting? And guys, one golden rule, remember birthdays and anniversaries, okay? Try and write a poem on the big day. Be romantic, though. Don't just sit there going, I love you, yes, it's true, doobie 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 doo. Give it some thought. Your love is like a daffodil. When you're not here, I feel quite ill. If you love me, do this one thing. Put your hand down there and I'll buy you some bling. Oh, come on! Go, 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 50. Go, 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 50. Yeah. This is the spot, y'all. New York. Just let me in the club, you tuxedo wearing slug. I don't want no stupid drugs, all I want is sloppy love. I've been shot 9 times and I just want a frog, so let me in the club before I crush you like a bug. When I pull up out front in my gangster Benz, all my homies jumped out and you let in all my friends, even though you had no taste, bad breath, bad skin. There's a midget with a poodle, damn, you even let him in? What's the matter with me? I got style, I got panache, a tight 6-pack in my face like a car crash. I know Eminem, Dr. Dre, and me are tight. I can get medication day or night. You think you got big balls? I was born in the South. Didn't have no silver spoon, I had a Uzi in my mouth. The kids in the kindergarten call me gangster piper. Anybody act a fool, I pull the pistol from my diaper. Listen, talk to you, man, it really gets my back up. I'm trying to be cool, but you make me wanna crack up. I wanna be inside, the party's about to blast off. I ain't comfortable out here, just squeezing my goddamn ass. Me in the club, I said I ain't a thug. I got an education for this poetry I love. To be or not to be, there's the rub. So let me in the club, you ugly looking pug. I'm hung, big tongue, I got the green. I'm cool, no fool, and I am keen. Strut my stuff and check out butts. You better let me in. Alright, you got me. This badass thing's an act. I got to behave like this dog. It's in my contract. Don't judge me by my rap. Underneath, I'm just a sap. Spend the weekends with my mom buying outfits in the Gap. My favorite thing to do when I'm chilling and relaxing is going down the spa to get a back and crack waxing. Don't believe the hype. I'm a pussycat dog. Being a big bad gangster is a mother of a stars. Put some dollars in your pocket. Stand aside and let me buy. If you don't let me in, I'm always start my foot and cry. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks to all my guests. Have a cracking weekend. Good night.
Join us on Monday for the remarkable life, music and influence of a one-of-a-kind superstar in the world of Nat King Cole, 9:30 Monday night on ABC.
Lenny, Lenny, Lenny.
Female choice is the single most important force we know in evolution.
Love so powerful is the desire to impress that males have exploited every visual trick in the spectrum.
Sex in the bush. Tuesday.
The ABC Cricket magazine is your guide to all the summer's action. Inside, Jeff Lawson looks at the future makeup of the Australian team, and Shane Warne leaps into the spotlight. Read about Brian Lara's formative SCG innings. There's a profile of South Africa's Akai and Teeny, plus all the latest player profiles and statistics. The ABC Cricket magazine, from ABC shops, ABC centres, newsagents and online.
Hello, I'm Helen Vatskopoulos in Bali. Next on Foreign Correspondent, the growing anger in Bali over bombs and drugs, and Balinese demand for autonomy from Jakarta.
I'm Eric Campbell in Tokyo. Next week I'm reporting on the dark side of a generation that's come of age since the collapse of Japan's economic boom. Tokyo's Generation Z, next Tuesday at 9:20 after the bell.
Hello, I'm Peter Lloyd. What makes ABC Asia Pacific different is that reporters like me work where we live. When the tsunami happened, I was at home in Bangkok. Then, within a few hours, I was on Phuket, the first Western TV crew to arrive there. The devastation, the harrowing stories, those images we showed you, they never go away. We worked around the clock for days to bring you those stories on ABC TV and radio, ABC Asia Pacific.
More than the headlines.
Tonight, war of words. The ACT claims it's being threatened by the federal government with exclusion from the next round of consultation over new counter-terrorism laws.
I think that's an incredibly churlish, if not childish, move by the Prime Minister, and frankly, I'm quite stunned by it.
But late this evening, the Prime Minister declared that John Stanhope will be kept in the loop on the new legislation.
There is no purpose served. I've decided in the people of the ACT being treated with the discourtesy that Mr Stanhope displayed towards his fellow leaders.
Welcome to Lateline. I'm Maxine McHugh. Tonight, the Liberals' George Brandis and Labor's Lindsay Tanner debate the pluses and minuses of the proposed anti-terror laws. That's coming up. But first to our other headlines. Qantas unions say thousands of jobs are at stake as the airline considers moving maintenance operations overseas. A consignment of Canadian pigeons triggers a rethink on live bird imports into Australia. And Syria named the prime suspect in a United Nations report into the assassination of former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafik Hariri. The Prime Minister has rejected claims that the ACT has been excluded from any further consultation over the planned new counter-terrorism laws. A week after posting the draft legislation on his website, the ACT Chief Minister says he's been told in an email that he won't be receiving an updated draft of the laws. Tonight, John Howard has told reporters Mr Stanhope will still be consulted, even though his actions in publicising the laws were wrong. From Canberra, Nada Gilmore reports.
The ACT Chief Minister believes it's the community's right to see the details of the tough new counter-terrorism measures. That's why he posted the draft laws on his website. An updated draft will be released next week. John Stanhope says he was told today in a government email that he won't be getting one.
I think that's an incredibly churlish, if not childish, move by the Prime Minister, and frankly, I'm quite stunned by it.
According to Mr Stanhope, the email from the Office of Parliamentary Counsel said the updated draft would be sent to other states by fax, not email, and he says they've been instructed not to give the document to anyone outside their offices.
The Prime Minister requires the approval of 4 of the states and territories before he can introduce and proceed with his legislation. He's decided he doesn't need me.
Not so, according to the Prime Minister. Tonight, John Howard confirmed Mr Stanhope will in fact receive all drafts of the legislation.
There is no purpose served. I've decided in the people of the ACT being treated with the discourtesy that Mr Stanhope displayed towards his fellow leaders.
John Howard is yet to reach a compromise with other state leaders over the inclusion of a shoot-to-kill power in the draft laws. The states say it was never raised with them, a point Mr Howard acknowledges.
It was something that we regarded as completely incidental to the implementation of the agreement. I wasn't holding anything back. If I had thought that it was unnecessary, if necessary to raise it, I would have.
The Federal Police Commissioner has backed the Prime Minister's assertion that shoot-to-kill powers are nothing new.
From a policing perspective, nothing will change. Whether the application of lethal force is part of the new bill or whether it remains the same as what it is today.
I'm sure that in further discussion with the Premiers, which I intend to have, we can reach some compromise or understanding about it.
It seems further discussions will also be needed with members of the government's own backbench. A committee examining the laws has concerns. And for the second time this week, Victorian Liberal MP Petro Georgiou has called for more safeguards. He wants an independent watchdog appointed to monitor the new powers. In a speech today, Mr Georgiou said the task of getting it right, of ensuring the package is both effective and respectful of fundamental rights, will be one of the most profound challenges confronting the Parliament in the coming weeks. It's expected the final legislation will be introduced in just over a week's time. Nada Gilmore, Lateline.
Qantas has confirmed that it's considering moving much of its maintenance operation outside of Australia. Unions say thousands of local jobs could be lost and the opposition is calling on the government to intervene. Craig McMurtry reports.
The unions are calling it a body blow and say any decision by Qantas to move jobs offshore would be the death knell of aircraft maintenance in Australia.
These jobs, which are high-skilled, high-tech and high-value, may be exported at the cost of safety.
The airline's on a cost-cutting drive and according to its chief executive, a final decision will be made in 3 or 4 months. Jeff Dixon says the choices between restructuring at home or moving significant parts of maintenance operations offshore.
Obviously, if there was an outsourcing overseas option, we'd have to admit there would be a lot of jobs, yes.
We don't believe it's appropriate to outsource these jobs simply on the basis of chasing a dollar overseas.
The uncertainty over the future of maintenance workers comes as the government is weighing up whether to let Singapore Airlines compete on the US route. The opposition leader says the government has to intervene.
We don't want to see the kangaroo taken out of Qantas.
I hope they don't take decisions which transfer needlessly Australian jobs.
One prominent union leader says talk of local maintenance jobs being at risk is no accident.
To try and frighten Qantas workers into making concessions towards John Howard's industrial agenda and Qantas's bottom line.
Last month, the unions failed in their High Court bid to challenge the government's advertising campaign selling workplace changes. Today, the court revealed its reasons. The majority decision found it hadn't been shown that the use of taxpayer funds was unlawful, and the ACTU and Labor had to pay costs.
They have allowed themselves to have a system which means that the Parliament and the court have no control over the expenditure of taxpayers' money.
For the first time today, the Prime Minister acknowledged the extent of the ad spend.
Our budget would be somewhere, the upper limit of it would be somewhere in the 30s, 40s.
That's in millions. Craig McMurtry, Lateline.
Australia is considering a blanket ban on live bird imports after an avian flu scare involving Canadian pigeons in Melbourne. 3 birds from Canada tested positive to avian flu antibodies, meaning they'd come into contact with the virus. The affected pigeons were held in Australia's quarantine facilities before being destroyed. The federal government wants an explanation from Canada that says the birds don't pose a public health risk. Rachel Carbonell reports.
Pigeons, they might be the rats of the sky to some, but to others they're big business. It was a consignment of racing pigeons from Canada that set alarm bells ringing with Australian quarantine officials.
Australian quarantine second to none. And that's, I don't know what they do in Canada and why it wasn't picked up, but, we certainly picked it up in Australia and that's all that matters.
3 of the 102 birds tested positive to avian flu antibodies. and 4 to Newcastle disease antibodies, another disease capable of killing large numbers of birds. But experts say there's no need to panic.
The disease that was detected in Victoria is only a response to the disease. We haven't actually found the disease. Secondly, the birds are in one of the most biosecure environments within this whole country, so the public need not be concerned about this case.
The Prime Minister agrees.
There is a risk, but we shouldn't panic. In relation to the 3 birds, they and some others have been destroyed, and the other birds are being sent back to Canada. For the time being, we have banned imports of birds from Canada.
The federal government has also issued a please explain to Canadian authorities.
I'm reassured that the Australian system works so well, but I am disturbed that the Canadian authorities certified these birds as disease-free when in actual fact a number of them were afflicted with avian influenza antibodies and Newcastle disease antibodies.
Neither the Canadian Consul General nor the High Commissioner were available for comment today, but Canadian officials have hit back, denying they've failed to fulfil their screening duties.
In the case of avian influenza, there's a choice to be made. Either the country would be considered free of the disease, or there would be a serological test done. And in Canada's case, we are free of the avian influenza virus and have been since May of 2004, following the outbreak in British Columbia.
The federal government is now considering sanctions for live bird imports from other countries, but a ban could be difficult to enact.
Australia is signatory to a lot of international agreements, so we can't just put up a hand and say we're banning all bird imports. That's unsatisfactory. What we can do do it on a case-by-case basis and look at the countries that are a particular risk.
The Veterinary Association says banning live bird imports could also encourage the black market trade. It's unknown if the Canadian pigeons were exposed to the deadly H5N1 strain of bird flu, which has killed more than 60 people in Asia. Experts believe migratory birds from Asia pose the biggest risk of causing an outbreak in Australia.
The source is going to be Asia, most likely, where people live in close proximity to birds, and it's a real cesspool of disease transmission.
The federal opposition is continuing to call for more to be done to help neighbouring Asian countries combat avian flu.
The government is onto it now, but we were suggesting to the government months and months ago that they needed to be dealing with this problem.
Any decision on banning bird imports is likely to be made next week. Rachel Carbonell, Lateline.
The pressure is building on Syria tonight after the release of a UN report into the assassination of former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafik Hariri. The UN's chief investigator has implicated top intelligence officials in Damascus and says the conspiracy to kill Hariri probably goes to the very top of the Syrian regime. The country could now face sanctions when the UN Security Council considers the report next week. With our story, Norman Hamont.
Before the cameras, the UN report into the assassination that rocked Lebanon was handed over in New York. The picture it paints of the killing of former Prime Minister Rafik Hariri is the talk of Beirut. And for many, the prime suspect named in the report, Syria, is not a surprise.
For 15 years, the Syrians have been torturing us in Lebanon. For 15 years. I think now it's time for them to face what they've done.
For 4 months, a UN investigator has been piecing together the events behind Rafik Hariri's assassination. His death sparked huge demonstrations against Syria's influence in Lebanon and eventually led to the withdrawal of Syrian troops after nearly 30 years of occupation.
There is no doubt about it. Most experts believe that it is impossible that 8 security leaders from both countries, Lebanon and Syria, would be plotting without the knowledge, if not the encouragement and the order of both presidents in Syria and in Lebanon.
The report filed by Chief UN Investigator Detlef Mellis doesn't name names, but it clearly points the finger at top Syrian and Lebanese intelligence officers. It's the first official link between Damascus and Hariri's assassination. All of this means even more pressure for Syrian President Bashar Assad and his Lebanese counterpart, Emil Lahoud. The report links the Lebanese leader to 4 generals already under arrest for their suspected roles in the killing. As for Syria's Assad, already feeling the heat from Washington over alleged assistance to insurgents in Iraq, the timing of this report could not be worse. He has consistently denied any Syrian involvement.
This is against our principle and my principle, and I would never do such a thing in my life. What do we achieve? What do we achieve? I think what happened, they targeted Syria.
But for many in Beirut, that argument isn't likely to find much sympathy. And Damascus is also bracing for criticism in the UN next week when the report is discussed by the Security Council. It could consider sanctions against Syria. That would be another blow for a leader who, despite the organized adulation seen on state television, is fighting to keep his grip on power. Norman Hermont, Lateline.
A Melbourne man convicted of drug smuggling in Singapore has had his final appeal rejected and is now facing execution. 25-year-old Win Tong Van has been on death row since March last year for smuggling heroin. The Australian government had asked for a presidential pardon, but the appeal was turned down.
It's a sad thing for his family. It's a terrible reminder of the consequences of taking and dealing in drugs in Asian countries.
Win will become the fourth Australian to be hanged in Asia for drug smuggling. Now returning to our top story, and as we've seen over the past week, the loudest voices raised against the government's hard line on new anti-terror laws aren't coming necessarily from the federal Labor opposition, but from maverick Liberals such as Malcolm Fraser and Victorian backbencher Petro Georgiou. So with a second draft of the new laws soon to be circulated, we're interested tonight in the views of two prominent parliamentarians. Lindsay Tanner, Labor's Shadow Finance Minister. He joins us tonight from Melbourne. And Senator George Brandis. He's the chair of the Attorney General's Backbench Committee, and tonight he's in our Brisbane studio. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us tonight. Lindsay Tanner, to you first. It has very much been left to others to make the case against these new laws, or what we know of these new laws from the draft that has been out for the past week. Many see it as a bridge too far. Why is federal Labor not making a similar point?
These laws, I think, come dangerously close to destroying the freedoms that they're supposed to be defending, Maxine, and we haven't yet seen them introduced into the Parliament, so we'll certainly be scrutinising them once we've actually got the formal detail. But if you look at what's been out there in the public arena already, then I think there's very good reason to be concerned. I can accept the need for stronger police powers, provided there are appropriate safeguards and judicial oversight. I can accept the need for stronger resourcing of agencies like ASIO, but I draw the line at notions of extending shoot-to-kill powers. We don't live in some kind of James Bond movie. We've seen the potential consequences of overzealous policing and human error tragically in London with the death of an innocent man, John Charles de Menezes. We don't want to see that kind of thing happen in Australia.
Well, in fact, why hasn't Labor's Shadow Attorney General Nicola Roxon been out there making these points this week? She's been virtually silent.
Well, in fact, it's Arch Bevis, our Homeland Security representative, who's essentially the key person that's involved in these issues. Nicola Roxon's also got a role to play. But he has been making points, but of course we've been waiting to see the detailed legislation. You have to keep in mind that what's put out there initially is not necessarily going to be what's in the final piece of legislation for Parliament. So we're not going to engage in shadow boxing with the government about these issues.
Well, that hasn't stopped someone like Petro Georgiou, the Liberal backbencher, putting out a very detailed critique today on where he sees the deficiencies in this legislation. He draws a distinction, for instance, with what happens in the UK, where there are many legislative safeguards that are not included in this particular draft.
Maxine, we don't time our political approach according to what individual Liberal backbenchers do, and I don't expect we will in the future. We will scrutinise the legislation in detail. We do believe there is a case for stronger powers. It's important to recognise that we're not dealing here with governments seeking to stifle political dissent or civil disobedience, such as was the case in the 1960s and the 1970s. We're dealing here with the threat of mass murder of innocent people. That's a very serious threat. We have to treat that seriously. We've got a responsibility to the Australian people to ensure that our government, state and federal, can provide the maximum protection for them from that threat. It's not a threat to be treated lightly. So we are going to scrutinise that legislation very carefully. We're strongly committed to ensuring that where powers of detention and other things of that nature are extended, that there are appropriate safeguards, judicial oversights and things of that nature. But where we've drawn the line, and where premiers like Steve Bracks and Peter Beattie have drawn the line, is on shoot-to-kill issues. We don't believe that's appropriate. We don't believe that's necessary to be extending powers in those areas.
Right. George Brandis, perhaps a comment on that last point that Lindsay Tan has made, but also I gather your committee has been in consultations with the Attorney-General, Philip Ruddock, about what's in these new laws. To what extent can you tell us if the Attorney has a preparedness to compromise around some of the more contentious points?
Well, let me say something first about the somewhat luridly named shoot-to-kill powers. This is a red herring. The provisions which are in the draft, which Lindsay could have inspected any time in the last week since a draft was posted on Mr Stanhope's website.
Can you guarantee that's the one that will hit the Parliament?
Merely include the provisions that are existing provisions in the Commonwealth Crimes Act, and indeed are provisions that exist under state law and have existed from time immemorial at common law. What they say is that if a police officer or a law enforcement officer is engaged in the execution of their duty and they find a situation in which their life is threatened or the life of a third party is threatened, they may use reasonable force, including in an extreme case, lethal force, in order to save life. Now, that has been part of the criminal law for time immemorial, and I think it just goes to show the rather pusillanimous way in which Labor Party figures like Mr Beattie and Mr Bracks have tried to buy into the argument here, having signed off on the package, by raising in a lurid way what it really is a red herring. Now, Maxine, you asked me about where this stands with my committee, the Attorney-General's Backbench Committee. We've had two very long meetings with the Attorney-General over the last fortnight, and we will have at least one more before the party room next meets on Tuesday week. And the Attorney-General has shown a spirit of great cooperation in listening to the views of individual members of that committee, including Mr Giorgio. We are going through the draft bill in a thorough and methodical way, but I do want to make the point that the broad principles that have been outlined by the Prime Minister and signed off on by all governments in the country have the support of the committee.
All right. Petro Giorgio, as you know, has made the point today about some of the safeguards he feels are not adequately addressed. In particular, he's drawn attention to the many extra layers of checks and balances that are there in the UK system. Now, do you have some sympathy with the kinds of points that Petro Giorgio is making?
I do have a degree of sympathy with it. I think what Mr Giorgio is saying, and it's a point of view I agree with, is that if there is a case for expanding the powers to meet the greater threat, and there is, I think there is also a case for expanding the safeguards commensurately with the greater powers.
Can I just quote you then? In fact, well, to back that up, it's interesting, the last paragraph of Petro Giorgio's speech today, he makes this point. He says, the lesson of history is that many members of the community are at risk if power is not subject to rigorous constraints. So you would obviously undermine that point.
Well, no, I don't undermine the point that Mr Giorgio made. What I say, and what I understand him to be saying too, and I've discussed this with him often, is that if there is a case, as there is, in a new national security threat environment for new police powers that are novel to our system, then it's important that there be sufficient oversight mechanisms to ensure those powers aren't abused.
Oh, of what kind? Because he refers to the UK system where for 20 years they have had an independent monitor of all of this. In fact, it's someone from the House of Lords who is also a QC.
Yeah, Lord Irvine, I think. No, Lord Carlisle. Maxine, the debate, I think, has moved on to the question of safeguards on the exercise of the new powers rather than the question of whether the powers are needed, because I think most people, including I gather Lindsay, accept that they are. Now, you can approach the question of safeguards in a variety of different ways. We have precedents for this in the system in Australia at the moment. There is a joint standing committee of the Federal Parliament that looks at ASIO, Asus and the DSD. There is also a statutory office of the Inspector General of Intelligence and Security who reviews the performance of the security agencies. So we already have levels of oversight over the exercise of ASIO and intelligence agency powers in the system. What Mr Giorgio, as I understand him, is calling for is a parliamentary oversight mechanism for the exercise of these powers. and more frequent reporting to that new mechanism than is currently being contemplated. Now, when the Prime Minister was asked his comments on that, he at a doorstop yesterday, he said words to the effect that he didn't favour a new statutory body, but he was prepared to enter into a conversation with members of the government, including Mr Giorgio, to further develop these ideas. This is a dialogue. We've had a very good dialogue with the Attorney General, and that dialogue is continuing as we work through this draft in order to get it right.
Lindsay, Tony, your comment on that point for the need of a very strong parliamentary oversight.
Parliamentary oversight is obviously very important in this area, Maxine, but no amount of parliamentary oversight will cure a bad law. And if there is absolutely no change to the situation with shoot-to-kill laws, why on earth are they putting anything in this legislation about it? If there's no need, why put it there?
Bad law because it's been in the Commonwealth Crimes Act for all these years. Have you ever sought to repeal it?
If there is no need,
let's hear from Lindsay Tanner first.
If there is no need to put it in there, why are you putting it in there, George? There has been already legal opinion published pointing to the fact that this legislation will create a new class of person, somebody who is a suspect, who is therefore criminalised without having ever been convicted of anything. So you're creating a new category of person, and the application of shoot-to-kill laws with respect to that person could conceivably be very different legally from what currently applies with respect to people who are criminals or in the process of committing a criminal offence. So if it's not necessary, why is it in there?
Lindsay, you're all over the place. What you literally call the shoot-to-kill powers, as I explained at the start, are powers to authorise in extreme circumstances where it is necessary to save life, the use of force, and in extreme cases, lethal force. They've been in the Commonwealth Crimes Act, they've been in the state criminal law, they've been in the common law for time immemorial. You're a lawyer, you should know that.
Correct.
This is a red herring, and the circumstances. Why does it matter whether the circumstance in which a person's life is threatened so that an officer is forced to use necessary force? Why should it make a difference whether that occasion is an occasion of preventative detention or the apprehension of a suspect in the course of a crime?
I think Jean-Charles de Menezes
somebody's
could
life
probably
is
answer that
being
if he were
threatened.
I think Jean-Charles de Menezes could probably answer that question if he was still alive, George.
All right. Lindsay,
I'm sorry you take a cheap point like that, Lindsay, about somebody's life. The fact is that the purpose of that power is it is only exercisable for the purpose of saving life.
Why does it need to be in the legislation? If the way you describe it's accurate, there is no, it doesn't add anything. So why is it there?
All right, gentlemen, let's move on. Lindsay Tanner, I gather you've got extra concerns as well around the new definitions of law of sedition.
Obviously, that's a major concern, Maxine. We'll want to look at the detail of that to see precisely what that refers to. We need to be careful not to jump at shadows on this, because it's very similar in some respects to racial vilification laws, where we've heard people suggest that you'll get thrown in jail for telling an Irish joke, which is obviously ridiculous. So we need to carefully look at those issues to make sure that they are appropriate, but we don't want to see the exercise of freedom of speech criminalised. That's clearly wrong.